My name is Alex Gotay, and I work in youth ministry full-time. I have been working with teens probably about like 16 years. Now, in saying that, I have noticed a lot of different things, especially when it comes to the different things that we take in, especially whether it be like movies, whether it be like Instagram, social media, whatever it may be. We take in these different messages and we don't realize that sometimes these messages are actually trying to teach us something. Now, I know that sounds so far from what it is that we actually know when it comes to learning. A lot of us think that we have to go to school or it has to, especially when in religious education, it has to be in front of a priest and so forth. And then that's how it is that we learn. But we don't realize that the different songs, the different music, the different just things that we watch and so forth, all of it has an undertone of how it is that we learn. So the message, and one of the things that I've learned is a lot of them teach through movies. So the other night, I'm sitting there watching late at night, don't judge me and so forth, staying up late. I'm on full-time, I'm a youth ministry schedule, you know what I'm saying? So I'm watching TV, and I noticed this movie, and this movie kind of speaks into this. The movie is called No Exit. The movie begins with this dude. He kind of just like comes through. Right? He kind of just like notices where he's at. And he notices that he's in a hotel room and he's walking and he notices something. He notices that he's dead. You see, he starts to look around and everything that he's heard about being dead is a little bit different because he notices that he's in a hotel hallway. And see, it's kind of like an old, like 20th century American old style hallway. And he's walking and like, he's like kind of like bugging out. He's like, yo, I'm dead. And then so he starts looking around and then he looks in the back and he notices a bellhop is following him. So he's like, yo, like I'm dead. And like, he's kind of just like, man, I'm about to lose. And he starts looking around and he's like, there's no angels. There's no pearly gates. There's no God. There's nothing, there's nothing crazy here. So he starts to kind of do what we would do is we would, kind of like, yes, 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 no, no, no. We go through this little list and he realizes something. He realizes that he's in hell. So he loses it. He gets scared and he starts walking to a door. And as he's walking to that door, he's like, yo, when I walk through this door, I already know something is going to, I've been taught my whole life, there's this thing called the devil. And when I walk in this door, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be mad. So he's just like walking and he's walking up to the door and he starts like, and the music is like building up and he's like, yo, yo. And he's like that. And he puts his hand on the door and he opens the door and he notices it's just another simple hotel room. No big deal. So he's like, ha ha. Bet, man, I've been told my whole life that hell is just basically kind of this simple, like, hell where, like there's going to be pitchforks and torturing and all this different thing. And I'm looking at this, man, this is a hotel room. There's a couch right here. There's a little lamp. There's a picture and so forth. He's like, ha ha, I've been told my whole life, whatever, they got it wrong. Ha ha ha, I'm good. So what? I'm in hell. It's not a big deal. It's a hotel room. It's a little bit stuffy in here, but not a big deal. As the movie starts going on, you start to notice something. You start to notice that two other people go through the same exact thing. They keep walking, they notice they're dead, and they start bugging out, and then they get to this hotel room, and they're like, ha, 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 whatever, whatever. In fact, one of them gets so bold. This lady gets so bold, she's like, yo, I don't even belong here. I'm a good person. Like, I've given so much to the church. I've given so much to the world and so forth. What am I doing here? There's an accident. Can you please go get that bellhop dude? Because like, yo, I don't belong here. So they do naturally what we would do. They start talking to each other. And as they talk, you start to notice something. You see, at first, the very first in the movie, they're just like, ha, 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 I'm in hell, blah, blah, blah. And they start painting themselves like with all the good things that they've done. With all the like best possible, I did this, I did this, I gave to charity, I'm rich, I did this, and blah, 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 blah. But see, you notice something. You see, they're painting themselves like this amazing way of looking at themselves. And then as the movie goes on, you start to see them for who they really are. And not only that, you start to notice that they can't blink. They're just staring at each other. And as they're staring at each other, these different things that they've done, that they've hid from each other, they start to come to light. And it starts to bother them. It starts to bother them a lot, in fact. One of them, the guy who's in there, is two ladies and a guy. The guy who's just like, he's just like, man, I don't even want to see you guys anymore. And because he can't blink, he like tries to run away from them and hide, because basically they start to change, and he starts to open in the vision. They start to open and see and expand on who it is that they are. And he doesn't want to see it. So he goes and like tries to hide, and he puts his hand and he's like, yo, don't look at me because you're changing. I don't want to see you, and I want you to see me. And he can't blink. So he's just staring at his hands, and they all just like, basically they come around each other, and they're all reacting to each other just like that. Just like that, just like freaking out, just like, my goodness. Like, yo, I don't want people to see me for who I really are. And they just change it. And by the end of the movie, they all just basically spaz out, they bug out, and the movie ends. So why am I talking about this movie? Now think about what I said. We take in things, we learn from the different things that surround us. You see, the writer of this movie is a guy named John Paul Sartre. In fact, it's not a movie at all. In fact, it's a play. And this play, written by John Paul Sartre, is showing about the meaninglessness of life. You see, John Paul Sartre, he's an atheist, and he doesn't believe in God. And what he says is, you know, he looks at the world and he realizes there's different things. Like, he puts things into categories, you know? Like, he realizes this wood thing right here, it's simply, and he uses big words, but he's like, yo, this thing right here, it's a being in itself. Like, I can kick it, I can punch it, I can talk about his mama, don't judge me. I can, you know, roast it. I can do all these different things. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I can rear naked choke it, although that would be weird. I can do all these different things to it, and it's not gonna care, because it simply is what it is. It's a being in itself. But then he places people into a different category. He says that people are beings for themselves. And what is he saying? He's saying that people know how they are. And not only do we know how we are, we're aware of how it is that we are, and we don't want people to see us for who we really are. Why? Because we all know the bad things that we've done. We all know that, like, if people see me for who I really am, they're not going to accept me. And not only they're not going to accept me, they're not going to want to be around me, so I got to hide it. I don't want people, the way he says it, is people are aware of themselves unlovable. You see, hell for John Paul Sartre, because there's no God, life is basically meaningless, because he wants somebody to accept him for who he really is, and how people want people to accept them for who we really are, but there isn't. And life would be meaningful if we could find somebody or something to accept us in all of our brokenness, all of the things that we've done. And let's be real with each other. We've all done things. Definitely. I love how scripture says that all have fallen short. All. And in that we've fallen short, we don't want people to see us for who we really are, because we know that, one, people are going to take advantage of us, and two, they're going to judge us. So we cover it up. I know that this is true, especially in my years on this earth. I mean, seriously, look at me, myself. I mean, honestly, they asked me to put on long sleeves because the way that, you know, I have on my skin and so forth. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I know how it feels to, like, you know, walk in a room and literally I have to give my resume. I have to tell them I have a bachelor's, basically 3 masters, and finishing my doctorate. And, you know, and that's how, before people, you know, kind of accept me for who it is that I am. And I'm just being honest. I'm being vulnerable here and explaining that. But that's how that's how the culture is we got to tell people all the good things about ourselves before we sit there and enter into them seeing us for who we really are. So we wear different masks, if you will. So let me ask you a question, whoever it is that maybe you just turned here, flipping through the channels, maybe on the internet, whatever it may be. What are some of those things that you know that you've done that you don't want people to see you for who you really are? What are some of those things that you've hid to the world? And it's funny, especially in America, we have social media and all these different things. And it's funny because, like, I'll look at, like, social media for some of the teens, young adults, and parents for that matter. And, like, when you're on there, you literally put all the good things, like, oh, this is my bae. This is so good. Oh my God. This is, you paint all those good things. And then all of a sudden you hide all those different things. And I've seen it. Like, some people, they get in, like, this little, like, mix. And they're like, yo, you know what? I'm going to be real. And they, like, put something about themselves. No more than, like, 20 minutes later, 20 seconds later, a minute later, they take it down because you don't want people to see us for who you really are. How many of you have things that even your best friend doesn't even know. That's how life leads us, right? Or wrong? I would say wrong. I would say it's almost the exact opposite whenever it comes to our faith. Now, I'm gonna tell you about somebody who has helped me out tremendously, somebody who I absolutely love, and I mean that in its purest essence, somebody that I talk to all the time. Don't judge me because he's dead. Well, actually, he's alive, more alive than you and I. It's a guy named St. Augustine. Now, hold up. Before you stop, oh, St. Augustine, he doesn't have anything to do with me. Wait. I don't want you to think of any picture that you've heard of St. Augustine that, basically you've heard already. I want to paint you the picture that he paints himself. In fact, he's a bishop. He's about 40, 45 or so, and he's looking back on his life. And all these rumors are going around about some of the stuff that he's done before he became a priest. And before he became a bishop, if you will, in the church. And he had a huge following. It would be basically like a mega church in America. Just mad people all around would come and listen to him. And so could you imagine all the different things that people would say about him, all the different rumors, and he doesn't deny them. He writes about them. And one of my favorite books of all time, it's called Confessions. If you get a chance, I want you to read it, because Confessions is more than just a book about his life. It's a book about prayer and how our lives are prayer, and that these different things, whether they be good and because life is good, but also these bad things, these things that happen to us, they're almost a call. They're almost a thing that just like because of original sin and because of how this world is, it points us to a world beyond. In fact, he has a beautiful quote that I absolutely love. He says, "My love is my weight." It's at the end of Confessions. And what is he saying? And again, quote this, "My love is my weight." You see, weight to the ancients in his times, because he's about 40, 45, but he lived in about the 4th and 5th century, if you will. And love in that time, weight in that time, I guess the best way to example is I'm holding this piece of paper, and if I drop this piece of paper, it would go to the ground. Why? Because it's hard and it's substance and like it's material, and the material thing, it goes to the ground because it goes home. This is the way this thing is. It goes to its source. You understand? It caused that, and like if I let it go, the only reason why it's standing up is because I'm holding it, but it wants to go home. That's where it's designed to be. This is how the ancients, Aristotle, Socrates, this is how ancient physics looked at it. Fire is another way. There's a candle right here. The reason why, like if you look at a flame and how fire is, the reason why it's going up, because its source was thought to be from the sun. You see, things draw themselves home. Things pull themselves home. And not only do they pull themselves home, they have a way of sheltering us and pushing us to home. So love for Augustine is literally these things pulling themselves home. But because of the world that we live in, love basically is disordered. It's dysfunction because of sometimes the things that we go through. I want to introduce you to Papo. Now, I've met Papo through the years, and as these talks go on, I'm going to talk about Papo more. Papo's uncle was born in Puerto Rico, and he ended up coming to America because of the military and so forth. He was in the war 3-4 times, and I'll expand more in the different talks on him and his grandfather and so forth. But why was his grandfather important? Because the wars that he was in, it played an effect on him. And some of the things that he subjected Papo's mother and their family to, aunts and uncles, one of them was sexual abuse. So much so that it traveled down to Papo. At the age of 8 years old, Papo's older relative would come inside of his room. And you can fill in the blank. It happened for about 3 years, and Papo's way of looking at love was basically broken. His first girlfriend, she too was sexually molested. And because He was only about 13 at that time. That's how he thought love was, because that was the norm in the family and so forth that he came from. She had an abortion. She lost a child, and he didn't think anything of it, because his idea of loving was definitely different. And I would definitely say that idea of molestation, sexual abuse, and so forth is very common in the world that we live in today. But the truth is that that is not love. This is disordered love, and this is a result of the fallen world. And Augustine realizes that. He realizes that love, true love, is way more than the things that he's lost and what it is that he's gone through. And in saying that, Augustine realizes that this was almost a call to a world beyond, and so did Papo, because I am Papo. And I understand that sometimes the idea of love that we may learn whenever we're children is not the love that we've searched for. You see, 1 John 4 says that God is love. And all these different things that we go through, all these different things they're disordered love, but you're made for perfect love. And there is redemption in that. So the first thing that you need to do is accept, but move past, get help, and so forth. And understand that all these things are not because of God, if you will. They're not. That's bad theology. All these things are a result of a fallen world, and there's a God who loves you, and that's what you're made for. You're made to look beyond these things and to move past these things. But that's the first part. The second part is to be the body of Christ and to help others. You see, Augustine realizes that all these things are a result of the fallen world. And he writes so much about love because love is his weight. Love has drawn him. And these different things, although they're not from God per se, they're a result of the fallen world. But these things, I like how one person says, he says that we fall because the only place to look is up. You see, whenever we're on our back, whenever we're looking down, we have to look up. And sometimes that's where it is that we're at. And that's the beauty of the Christian message, is that these things that we go through, it's not the end. It's not the end. And the truth is that yes, we want people to accept us for who we really are. But to move past these things is accepting us for who we really are. And you are a child of God. I want to make sure I say that. You are a child of God. And regardless of what has happened to you, God loves you right for where it is that you're at. But you see, here's the thing. Love is a driving force. Love is this thing that pushes us and moves us. It almost calls us, if you will. Why? Because as 1 John 4 would say, God is love. You see, we're made for love, that intimate relationship with God, by love and for love, to give to this world. Are you given to this world? You see, don't get me wrong. Yes, things happen and it's very bad. Trust me. Like I said, I am Papo. I understand these things. But the thing is like, we can victimize ourselves, but if we find our true identity in God, move past them, then we understand the beauty of what we would call redemptive suffering. All these things happen for the benefit of this world and those beyond this world. And that's what we're called to do. Like I said, love is an action word. It's a moving force. So love should move you. Don't get it mixed up with this disordered love that we've learned when we were kids, or that this society teaches you that you have to hide who it is that you are. No, you are a child of God, but you're children in that you're a child of God. You are called to be light to this world. You're called to see brothers and sisters and be there for them. Are you doing that? You see, when you look at it that way, there's a saying that I've been saying for the last 2 or 3 years that I hope that if anything you learn from this, because you are a child of God and God is perfect king and so forth, then being a saint, being what it is that you're called for, it's not simply something that, like, hey, maybe I should do that. No, that's what you're designed for. In fact, the way that I say it is sainthood is not an option. It's a mandate. You're called to be a saint, regardless of where it is that you're come from. And simply because maybe you've gone through those things and maybe it's hard for you to show who it is that you are, man, how many other people are going through that right now? How many people can benefit from your story, from my story, and from what God can do once you let God in? If anything that you get from this talk, from this rant, is that there's a God who loves you. And if anybody knows about the fallenness of this world, trust me, it's me. And saying that, know that you're called to be a saint and that it's not an option, it's a mandate. Accept who it is that you are and then move out with that. Sainthood is not an option, it's a mandate.